Good morning. It's the 6th of July, 2022. It is hot outside. Very hot. It was up over 100 degrees yesterday. So it was, hovered around 39 degrees Celsius. So, gonna have another hot one today. But, be that as it may, what we are looking at is not another Mike Lambo game. It looks like one when you first see it, right? It's a book game. But it's a game. It's Ironclads of the American Civil War, and it's a solitaire war game by Patrick Rail. And Mr. Rail is, the way I understand it, he's a history professor in up in Maine. I forget the name of the university, but he's up in Maine, and he's also a game designer. He's made many games. He also uses games to, or he toys with the idea of the games to teach history, and that's something I've intellectually always thought was a good way to learn history, especially broad swaths, right? It's even a great way to learn strategy, right? It's an especially good way to learn strategy, and that's why I like the strategic level games more than I do, say, a tactical level game. Not that I don't think tactical level games are fun. They are. I do play them. But say squad level tactical game, you can learn some things, but that's what I tell people. Anybody wanting to know, you're not recreating a realistic thing if a tactical scenario. You would be better off if you go and play paintball, and and that still is not recreating a tactical scenario. So, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to warn you up front. This may be a little bit ranty just because it's something I know about and I love, and I've read about my whole life. Things I've read about a whole lot. So we're talking about Ironclads, which you're going to notice a lot of this is going to be inland stuff, right? So if you grew up, especially in the upper South, but the lower South and deep South can be the same as well, you may have grew up around some pretty big rivers. And I don't really call it naval tradition. Let's call it a riverine tradition. Comes up round through those places, right? I mean, if you grew up where I grew up and you didn't at least take a trip on a boat, a regular boat, I'm not talking about a cruise, although they do have them, on a boat from, say, Louisville, Kentucky to Owensboro, Kentucky, at minimum, on a boat, and get off in towns along the way and go do stuff, then I don't really know how you grew up, to be honest with you. And that could be said for the same in Memphis and Paducah, Kentucky, New Orleans, all those little places along the way, Cincinnati, that would be another one. You could take a big trip which is a good trip, from Cincinnati to Memphis. I've never took a long one from Cincinnati to New Orleans, right? And so this riverine tradition crops up, so we're going to see some of that in here. And those rivers made an invasion of the South much easier than could have been. And we're going to look at that. So let's first of all, let's read the back blurb. Pilot the Monitor against the Virginia, or run the guns of Vicksburg. These are the big things. And again, Monitor versus the Virginia, that's a famous. And Vicksburg, the siege of Vicksburg and run the guns of Vicksburg, those are very known things. And Vicksburg really being a culmination point of that Western campaign, in July of 1863. But the clash of the ironclad gunships CSS Virginia and the USS Monitor at the Battle of Hampton Roads on March 9th, 1862 heralded a new age of naval warfare. The steam-powered engines introduced earlier in the century had already revolutionized the mobility of 19th century ships. freeing vessels of their reliance on the caprice of winds or the dictates of river flows. Yeah, that's a big thing. The innovations began by the Industrial Revolution yielded powerful new warships, armed with strong new guns and plated with thick armor. A new ironclad navy threatened to revolutionize the practice of naval warfare, rendering the old wooden fleet obsolete. Yep. The solitaire game system explores the use of ironclads during the American Civil War through a series of scripted scenarios that teach the system gradually. Sounds familiar, right? Scenarios take 15 to 30 minutes to play. Each consists of a historical introduction, a play sheet, and a map sheet. All you need is a pencil, a few six-sided dice, and some generic game tokens. So, I do want to look at Acknowledgements, because I think this is classy by Mr. Patrick Rail. I think it's very classy. He says, as this game has been inspired by a recent spat of exciting game book formats, I wish to acknowledge the examples of Worthington Games, Bismarck Solitaire, Waterloo Solitaire, Gettysburg Solitaire. They only have 3, I guess. Oh. Huh. And Mike Lambeau Games, an ever-growing list that includes The Fields of Normandy, Battles of Normandy, Ghost of the Jungle, and Battles of Medieval Britain. If this game offers you half the enjoyment I have found in these, it will have succeeded. And there's a new one from Mike Lambeau. It's the hostage rescue team, which is, we may look at that pretty soon. So, and he's thanking his play testers. That's always a nice thing. So these books, he's acknowledging that's where a lot of this come from, was from that, as Dan Picaldi said, he thought that Worthington done something, during the pandemic, which they say it's due to the pandemic and due to shipping concerns and printing concerns in China that they made the books. And so yeah, maybe that there's a lot more to that than I knew. But then the Mike Lambeau stuff, and then I found the Adam Mitchell's stuff, which are different but still very, very fun, man. And a lot of that is just spawned out of having time and doing something different. Like I said, I've gone for years and said game books, war games never explored the idea of the game book like RPGs did. They just didn't. And so now they're doing it. I'm very happy. Not that I had anything to do with it other than me shouting into the ether about it, but I am very happy. Okay, so map sheet, play sheet, rules seem pretty light. All right, range facing. Well, let's look at this here. Range facing. Each gun has a range which is equal to its strength. A gun's strength also denotes its range in hexes. Cool. For example, a gun with a strength of 3 can target a hex within its field of fire up to 3 hexes away. Okay. I just kind of shots. Look what? Determining the hit value of a hex. All right. I just kind of read what catches my eyes. Fire procedure. Let's look at that. The fire action lets guns attempt to inflict hits on opposing units for each shot. Identify a target unit in the gun's field of fire and determine its range. Determine the hit value of the target hex. Take a shot by rolling the depicted number of dice. Okay, yeah, that's pretty easy there. Each die roll equal to or less than the hit value of the target hex succeeds. If the roll resulted in one or more successes, the shot inflicts a hit on its target. Mark 1 hit on the okay. Check to see if the gun can take another shot. All right, cool. Fields of fire on gunboats. All right. how gunboats take fire, extended examples. All right, a lot of this is examples and really getting, I mean, so we're up to page 17 and we're just talking about rules. But I don't see nothing that is overly complicated other than it's being explained. Yeah, there's a couple of, most of the scenarios I looked at, flipped through, were mostly Union ships, going up against forts and so on. But there are, like the Monitor versus the Virginia, there are some of those, and so they have bot-operated gunships. It's going over actions, move, fire, simple action sequence. It's player turn, move, then fire. Opponent turn, operate opposing bot, check for scenario in. Cool. Ramming. There we go. Gunboat bots, more gunboat. Standard action dies. Repair action. Hey, let's delve into the repair action a little more deeply here. When you assign a repair die to a gunboat, do your choice of one of the following. A ship that takes no other action that turn may select one marked hitbox and unmark it. Okay. Place a die on the ship. When the ship fires a gun, you may remove the die to subtract its value from one shot roll die. Okay. All right. Okay. That seems kind of cool. Some of that's silent running. Cool. Mortar boats. Sounds like I'm saying motorboats there. Shallows 2. Okay. Crew casualties. Oh. I always kind of liked how Wooden Ships and Iron Man kind of did that, where you would mark off the casualties. Yeah. When you take hits on crew, there is a consequence for your ability to fire your guns. All right. The hit value of each hex the ship's gun target suffers. The die roll modifier indicated in the leftmost unmarked crew box, making it more difficult. That makes total sense to me. Wrecks, transport, plunge and fire. All right, let's look at the scenarios. Training mission. Always love that. Cool. Training mission. I'll ease you right into it. The Poop Turtles. The Battle of Fort Henry. That's a lot of my old stomping grounds, or even my current stomping grounds, in western Kentucky, not that far, and in Tennessee, by the way, parts of western Kentucky and West Tennessee, Fort Campbell area, if you will. You'll see a lot of this stuff going on. A lot of stuff happened down there. A lot of stuff happened in the area. All right, you have, even land battles. A lot of land battles. You had something like the Battle of Sacramento, Kentucky, which is not too far away from this. It is still a bit, but not too far away from it. You had the Battle of Sacramento, which was Nathan Bedford Forrest's first battle and first victory. And then you have a lot of this going on, Forts McHenry and Donaldson, which I don't know if a lot of people really know that, but especially Fort Donaldson, it's which is a national park area. They kind of straddle the state lines of Kentucky and Tennessee. So you have part of Fort Donaldson area in Kentucky, right? The Fort Hindman and stuff. So that's kind of cool. So I've really always looked at a lot of this stuff, right? In 1861, the Union government, aware of changing ship technology, ordered that, yeah. Giving you a nice little synopsis. This was the Western Campaign. Yeah, it was Grant. I mean, without a doubt. I don't, he's kind of overrated in some ways, right? That debacle at Cold Harbor. I mean, man, but that was just, just a meat grinder, really. But yeah, this was really where he was making his bones in these places. and Henry, and then the attack of the Virginia. This is Hampton Roads, right? First day of Hampton Roads over in Virginia, which I've spent time there, that area too. But Duel of the Ironclads. This will be the what is that? The Virginia versus the Monitor. Second day. Gunboat bots. There's one with the bots, right? The objective. Scenario objective. Succeed if you survive the end of turn 8 or eliminate Virginia before that. If you succeed, plus 2 victory points if, okay, Dragon survives. And, okay. Yeah, that's the Minnesota. And the Dragon, okay. And the Monitor. Wow. Very cool. Very cool, Patrick Rayo. Thank you so much. This is greatly appreciated. He's done other games too, but Ironclad versus Timberclans, Battle of Lucas Bend. Oh, very well. I don't really call it the Battle of Lucas Bend, but you're talking about, again, you coming in down around Kentucky, right? In the Kentucky area. You know, strange times in the state of Kentucky during that. You had a governor, what was his name? Barab McGoffin, who was certainly pro-secession, Confederate sympathies. You had a lot of people, even a lot of politicians with Confederate sympathies. Then you had a debacle in 1861 where many of those people with those sympathies decided to set out the election what do you call it? It's not set out the election, but to boycott the election, if you will. And it ended up where you had a Kentucky House of Representatives that was pro-union, and a governor and a state militia that were pro-Confederate. So you had a governor trying to declare neutrality, and then you had all this mess happening. You had the state militia becoming, the Orphan Brigade, the so-called Orphan Brigade. You had so many politicians. You had, senators resigning from Kentucky so they could go fight for the Confederacy. If you're John C. Breckinridge, who had been vice president. And then you had congressmen do similar things, right? You even had 2 different governments at one point, the Union government and then the Confederate government that started in Bowling Green, and then the line of Kentucky went from Columbus, Kentucky, which is around here, to Bowling Green, to the Cumberland Gap. Very hard and thin line to hold. So you had Mill Springs, General Felix Zollicoffer of the Confederate States of America die there. And you had this debacle going on here. So you had Albert Sidney Johnston back up all the way back down to Tennessee with the idea to regroup and push forward again. And then Shiloh happens. Albert Sidney Johnston dies, who probably, again, he was thought of as a shining star that died so early. Maybe a little bit overrated. I'm not going to get into it. But, yeah, all right. But he dies. And the Confederate governor of Kentucky, George Washington Johnson, who died in Shiloh, who joined as a private. Then, a year later, in October of 62, the Confederates invaded the area, right? And installed the Confederate government under Governor Richard Hawes in Frankfort. Before the Battle of Perry, I'm really getting off of it. But the point is that out of all that came this huge, these battles and a lot of conflict from that, being so close, Kentucky being so close to the free states and so on, right? It was just the Kentucky River, the Ohio River that separated them, and the free states from the slave states. So yeah, this is the battle going on down there. Lucas Bend, Ironclads versus Timberclads. Fighting over the Mississippi. You cut that Confederacy, cut a large portion of it off, which they did. And then you come over here, Battle of Island number 10. This is sometimes called the Battle of Kentucky Bend. Kentucky Bend's an odd place because the Great New Madrid earthquake, as we call it, series of earthquakes actually, just tore up that whole area. And so you have a bend of Kentucky that sets off into the Mississippi River there. And you can't even get to it from Kentucky. You have to go to Tennessee and drive back up. A great, Fulton County, Kentucky, great cotton growing area because it's so wet and so on and so low. Still this day, I mean, it's been a while since I've been down there, but yeah. So that's what we're dealing with here. And it's having taken control of the upper Mississippi River where north and south converged, Union forces began moving downriver, hoping to use their powerful new gunboats to dislodge rebel troops. When they laid siege to New Madrid was a place in Missouri, right? Confederate, right over the river in Missouri. Confederate forces retreated to a strong position on the island in the middle of the river. That was island number 10. Heavy guns threatened Union ironclads, whose commanders only reluctantly agreed to run the guns to help break the rebel position from behind. On a stormy night, the USS, what is that? Carandola? Made the first attempt, silently creeping down the river past rebel batteries under lightning-filled skies. Detected only the last minute, the last ship survived. See, I love these synopses. Wow. Again, very cool. Very, very cool. The River Defense Fleet, the Battle of Plum Point Bend. Okay, we're still talking about the exact area. Cool area down there. Not too far away. We're getting a little further south now. Fort Pillow. Yeah. So these areas, and like I said, a lot of people really wouldn't think of that area to have these kind of pitched naval, riverine battles, let's call them. Huh? All right. So, yeah. This is the one thing I do, and this is not a criticism of anyone. I'm not trying to be, but it's a noted thing, right? It's a noted thing that it's, it's like Wikipedia, right? It just becomes, people think that that's how it was. Since a Confederate invasion in September of 1861 had violated Kentucky's neutrality. And that's an odd thing to say, and I'm not sure why the Union government wouldn't want to take credit for it, because they actually did. Again, Kentucky's neutrality definitely helped the Confederate States, and but the Union was recruiting in Kentucky way before that. That's the reason the Confederate States of America used to invade Kentucky, was because of that. What was it? Camp Dick Robinson in Jessamine County, and now the idea of that begins as, was that an actual violation of the neutrality? Absolutely it was. And I don't think that there's any, I don't think we should, no one should be scared to talk about it, but that's a known thing. Usually people say, well, the Leonidas Polk invaded and maybe actual troops, but yeah, that, well, again, I'm picking scars there. I'm picking being nitpicky, but that's just me, right? This is stuff I've liked my whole life. But there we go. I will read this whole book. Drewry's Bluff. There's another. Wow. You're still getting over the Virginia way there, all right? I just don't think we talk a lot about the guns of Vicksburg. Again, another very cool I've been to Vicksburg too. Plenty of times. I've been all the way down those rivers, right? And I've been to Vicksburg. I like Vicksburg as a town. Guns of Vicksburg. Running those guns. By summer 1863, the strategic significance of the Mississippi River had become obvious. Control it and the Confederacy might last. Take it and the Union might win. Well, absolutely. The cutting off the Mississippi River and cutting off the Trans-Mississippi area from the Confederates was what should have been done, right? That's, in my opinion, the Anaconda plan was from the get-go was the smart plan, but instead of trying early knockouts, right? That's what it. And so extras, you get some extras here. Gunboat templates. You got tile sheets, Ironclads, and the Americans. Okay, and you got key locations. This is what we're talking about. Key locations along the Mississippi River, right through here. You got all these. Where New Madrid down here, and down here you got Memphis. All through here, I've really spent a lot of time. Beautiful area. A lot of good hunting, a lot of good fishing. Beautiful area. And then you're getting down to Mississippi and then Louisiana. If you've ever read Games in New York by who was it? Herbert Asbury, right? He also wrote a book called The French Quarter. And a lot of people don't really realize it, but it talks just as much about up here in Louisville, up here in Kentucky, as it does Louisiana. Those towns are very connected. New Orleans or the French Quarter, those towns are very connected because of those rivers. All right, so very cool, very cool. Look at that. Look, I like these play logs. Play log is just like the ultimate nerdy thing, but I can't help it. I love them. So cool. Thank you, Patrick Rayo. I appreciate this. He admits to not being a military historian, but hey, everybody should try their hand at I think, like I said, all war gamers, and to a lesser extent, all regular gamers, are a bit of designers, right? We've always played with rules and so on. So and I'm excited about it. I don't know how it plays. I'm going to find out tomorrow. So I got other things to do today, but this has went long. I'm sorry it's went so long. I said it was going to be ranty. Don't forget, there's a Kickstarter for the Battle of Zama from Dave over to the Centurions Review. $10. It's a good game. We all need to get it. Cool game. So don't forget that. That started yesterday. Okay, y'all. Take it easy. Talk to you soon. Be good. Stay cool. If it's 80 degrees or less than where you are, I am jealous of you, sirs and ma'ams. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.